All right, so today we're going to have a serious conversation. Something that I've kind of analyzed amongst me doing readings and happen to talk to a few close friends. I feel prompted to share my story about being molested. It's worked its way in my readings for quite some time now, and I know usually if I find myself repeatedly reading different people and delivering similar messages, if not the same, amongst different people, that means the message is for me. And anybody who reads, I'm pretty sure they know by now, or you know by now, when you deliver repeat messages. But this is something very heavy. I'm usually a very private person, but the amount of people that resonate with being molested, especially at a young age, it's just on my heart to share my story because I've talked to many different people. It's just something that honestly gets swept under the rug, especially in the black community, LGBT, in the black gay community. I've searched YouTube myself just to kind of see what other people experienced, and it's a very odd consistency amongst the person who was molesting the children. I will say one thing I didn't come across is guys sharing their stories. I saw a lot of females sharing their stories about being molested, but I didn't see too many guys. So I just figured, it's something very common, no matter how much we try to ignore it, but it's definitely swept under the rug a lot. It's just something that just seems to, I don't like those comments that are like, oh, stay away from, or your uncle, or you can't wear that, not to wear that around your uncle, or don't. It's just stuff like that, like pertaining to, I don't want to say pertaining to females, but that's just something that I do hear, not in my personal life, but it's just like, why does everybody know that this one particular uncle is a little fresh, or but I want to say I did not tell my mother for years. I think I just told my mother like 2 years ago, honestly. I was going through my Saturn return, and anybody that knows about astrology, it was very hard. And if you don't know about astrology, Daddy Saturn, is a planet of karma, discipline, masculine energy, father energy. It's very it's full of lessons. But usually people can equate their Saturn return to their 30-year-old breakdown. Usually your 30-year-old breakdown happens between the ages of 27 to 33, I want to say. But I ended up having to tell my mother, well, for one, I went to therapy, and I noticed a lot more when I was organizing notes. I'm a very meticulous person, very organized. So we going to therapy. If I'm be paying for therapy, we going on my schedule. And I know that may come up like control issues to therapists and psychologists, whatever, but if I'm paying you my dime, no, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about what I want to talk about. We're not going to guess and sit here, whatever, anyway. But amongst me writing notes for therapy, I discovered a lot, and it's really just journaling. That's all I was doing, in a sense, is journaling. I highly encourage journaling, especially if you dealt with any kind of child trauma, such as being molested. I feel like I was kind of just pushed to tell my mom at such a later age in my life. because she was actually getting remarried at the time, and it never clicked to me. Hey, the person that incident, well, those incidents were with, just may be there. And I don't remember what initially caused. I think I was just starting to break down, just in general. And then it got to a point whereas every day something would remind me of it. Basically, I thought, okay, I've hid the secret for all these years, literally almost 30 years. I could take it to the grave. And that's just not how life works, unfortunately. You gotta deal with it. But yeah, so it came to my attention, oh yeah, hey, this person, you may see this person that you haven't seen since you were a child here at this wedding, and how are you gonna act? Like, you know, you're grown, so like the adult part of you is like, oh, I can act like nothing happened, this is fine. Then it's like the inner child that still needs healing and protection, and just they're on the inside panicking like, hey, what the fuck are you gonna do to protect me? What you mean you about to go to this wedding? Like, what? It's just, and then, you know, I didn't know if I was going to randomly spaz out, or I knew it would be drinking there. I'm smarter than that. I'm not gonna drink. Yeah, I was just, I didn't know how I would react, and I didn't want to mistakenly blurt something out, or if I react a certain way, everybody's gonna be like, well, what the hell is wrong with you? For the longest time, well, due to around the time COVID, my mother's wedding continuously got pushed back a couple times. But it was like the universe was like working with me, because I wasn't ready. I know I wasn't. Like, looking back, I wasn't ready. I was trying to make myself ready, just because I'm the type of person, I gotta get it over with. Like, come on. I don't want, like, if it's a problem, I need to fix it, or I'm gonna get rid of it. But basically, every time I tried to tell my mom, it was the weirdest thing. Like, something continuously popped up. Like, I remember literally the most random shit. Like, I would text my mom, hey, can we talk? Or, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Can you come over? XYZ. And it wasn't that she was never, like, she was dodging it, because she didn't know what I was, you know, wanted to talk about. Or she just probably thought it was just, oh, I want to hang out. Because sometimes I just ask my mom, hey, what are you doing? And we could just hang out, whatever. But anyway, it was the weirdest shit. Like, when I feel like when I finally had, like, the balls to tell her, she was like, hey, I got this and that for the wedding. And of course, I'm just like, shit, like, it's getting closer and closer. It's getting crunch time. At the time, my mother's wedding, it was in May. And at this point, one time, it was like, I think this is like November, December, but it was like, oh my God, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna, like, is this gonna be able to be healed and done with in like 5 months, basically? Like, it was just so much. But I remember one time I finally got the balls to tell my mother, and she was like, oh yeah, I'll come this weekend. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I think like a day or two later, she was like, hey, my job is sending me to Vegas for a month. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it was like every time I tried to tell her, the most random situations would arise. And that was just, I know that was just to deter me from telling her. But needless to say, it got pushed back like a year, and I'm like, okay, now like the universe has really been working with me and working on my side in my favor, because I'm telling you, that wedding got pushed back so many times. Yeah, so it wasn't my time in my head. But anyway, I ended up You gotta laugh to keep from crying. But I ended up telling my mother 2 weeks before her wedding. I was terrified. I was like literally petrified because the closer we got to it, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, oh my God. Like, maybe I could just like slide out and like cowered out. Like, I felt myself shrinking. But what do I look like promoting healing and I'm not taking my own advice? So I apologize to my mom, like, hey, I do not mean to ruin your wedding. I don't want to do this, say this, like, and it's this close. I didn't know how she was going to take it. I honestly thought my mom was going to be a lot more dramatic than what she was. And I don't mean to laugh. It's just like, if you know my mom. But anyway, let your sis. But yeah, I just didn't want her to go through any, which is natural, you can't really help it, but any phases of like blaming herself, or just wondering why she wasn't there to protect me, the natural thoughts that a mother or a parent rather would have. She was a little more interested in like who it was. I mean, obviously, but I was like so reluctant on telling her, just because of the relationship that she had with the person. Well, yeah, whatever. But I remember, so my stepfather transitioned, and I remember like contemplating so bad, and my stepfather continuously visited me in dreams, in my meditations, like very frequently, basically telling me no, that it was all right and to do it, and that he was here, for protection, for guidance, love and support. And I actually have cold chills now. I remember when I actually did have the time to actually tell my mother. I remember being in front of her, and she was sitting at the end of my bed, and she just kept saying, you can tell me anything. And I'm like, I know. And I remember like freezing up. And I remember like closing my eyes for a minute, and I remember seeing my stepdad, kind of like cheer me on to tell me, like it's okay, like go ahead, like tell her, like basically like I'm right here, like we're here, we're in this together. But yeah, so I ended up telling my mother, and I remember her asking me, why did I wait so long? So like, why didn't I never told her? And I just remember thinking like, I was a kid, of course I didn't know any better, but I also remember like kind of clocking like, oh, I don't want to mess up the family. I was always a little advanced for my age, and I just didn't want, like in my head, we had like the perfect family. Like I didn't want for anything, I didn't never need anything, and it was just in my head, I'm just like, this is gonna cause some ripple effects. And I feel like the small inner child part of me now, I don't want to say still feels that kind of way, but I guess naturally feels that kind of way, because even now, like, even though I can, like, if I was talking to a not a normal person, but if I'm not used to talking in front of a camera, especially discussing something to this magnitude, but like in conversation, it flows a little easier because it's a personable conversation, and then the person can relate, or they do relate or resonate with my timeline of my story. So I can, it just flows with ease. But I think the more that I discuss it on camera, like I'm fidgeting with chapstick, so I can tell that's like psychologically nervousness. In the back of my head, I know I'm still wondering, like, damn, like, what the fuck is about to happen? Like, what is this gonna do? Like, what is this going, like, what cause and effect? And then I know it may be more questions to follow, especially from different family members that have no clue. Well, nobody really knows in my family. It just wasn't something that I wanted broadcasted. I can't stand questions. I'm a very private person, and I would hate to get irritated. It doesn't matter who it is, family-wise, so please do not ask me. If you know, you know. Well, you don't know, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm healed and healing from the situation. And there's nothing that, we can do. I'm past it. So, I appreciate it. I know naturally everybody would just, care, but I kind of just want to move on. I'm just here to help others, share my story, maybe help somebody else. I did do before I told my mom. I reached out to different people. I tried to research different people who stated that they were touched at a young age. Basically, how did you tell your parents? That was my main thing. I wanted to know the best approach. There's no real best way to go about telling a parent, hey, this is what happened to me as a child, because the parent is more than likely, especially mothers, I feel like, are going to blame themselves. I remember one of the first times the person, I remember one of the first times I remember the person basically asking me, do you want to do what they're doing? We were watching TV and it was late at night, and it was real sex, or back in the 90s, the HBO shit, I'm telling my age, you would come on at 11 p.m. or whatever the fuck it was, but basically it was that. And I remember the person looking at me and was just like, you want to do what they're doing? And I was just like, okay. And I think that was the first time. And of course I didn't know at the time that it was wrong, because I was 6 years old. How growing, well, I wouldn't say growing up, but growing up, going towards 8, older in that manner, I remember thinking, oh, I didn't know what sex was, what to call it, but I was oh, this is a relationship. When people do this, that on TV, they're in a relationship. I didn't know really what gay was. I was 6. At one point, it was kind of I had to tell my mom, because it was literally taunting me every day. It was the weirdest shit. I would get on Instagram and somebody's talking about it. I could get on YouTube and it's just a topic. When I had Facebook, I would get on Facebook and it was just, I'm what the fuck is going on? And it was just the universe saying, hey, you forgot this little box right here. You forgot to unpack this. I just remember going through school and stuff, still trying to talk to girls. I was still attracted to girls, but when I realized, at one point, being gay was so wrong, or you were a fucking alien. So I didn't want to be gay. And I was popular. So it wasn't cool to be gay. And if you thought, yeah, it's just, I wasn't comfortable, obviously. But I ended up, when I was kind of big on MySpace, I remember a lot of guys used to DM me. I used to be like, oh, I'm not like that. I know they were so pissed, like, boy, I know you lying, stop playing. But I really was trying to stray away. Like, it wasn't something I wanted to give into, basically. But end up trying it. Clearly, we know what happened. But I want to say, if I could change anything, I would have told my mom earlier, like way sooner. That's one thing that I don't want to say I regret, because things happen for a reason. But it kind of left my mom a little puzzled. I think she was more so concerned, like, why did you feel like you couldn't tell me? I think that was one of her biggest things. She went through the emotions, went through the anger phase, the sad phase, like she was up and down. What happened at the wedding? Like, what? The first time I'm gonna skip the first time that I saw the person, because I feel like that's a direct indicator and will allow people who know me to know who it is, and I just rather not right now. But I do remember that first initial time. I remember I was sick as fuck. I hardly ever get sick, and my body randomly, like, we were in the same hotel, and my body literally felt it. Like, the energy was so just traumatizing. Like, my solar plexus was off the hook. Like, I had randomly developed like a fever. Like, I was cold, but no, I was hot, but my nose was running, or it was something I forgot, but basically I was sick as hell. And I was like, what the fuck? And by the time I was checking out of the hotel is when I mysteriously, miraculously got better. And I was like, that's weird as fuck. But then I talked to one of my friends' mom. She had special spiritual gifts, and she was like, no, that was your energy. Like, your energy, even when you didn't know, like, you guys were on the same floor or whatever the case may be, your body still knows the trauma. It remembers, no matter how much you try to bury it. It's always going to be there until you unpack it. But I remember at the wedding, I was lit. I was lit. And I have gifts myself. I have dreams sometimes that come to pass, or I'll see things in my dreams and they'll come to pass. But I remember dreaming a female in front of me, and I just assumed it was one of my friends. But because all I could see is a bunch of hair, and I remember like going down like a walkway, and I remember it was like it was a fence to my right, and it was a brick wall to my left, and I remember like walking down, and I remember seeing the person, and I remember feeling scared to walk past because he was staring at me like, why did you tell? Why did you say something? And I remember the female like, it's okay, like, come on, like, let's go. And so I assumed it was one of my friends. I'm trying to leave names out, but I feel protected by her. She's she has a very dominant energy, but like, she is definitely like that. She got that mama energy, like, you're not gonna fuck with him. And that was the closest thing to my mom in that moment. But anyway, I remember seeing the person, and they had on black, and they had on all black and like a white shirt on top. And the day of my mom's wedding, when I went to her suite. Matter of fact, I remember, I think I actually had that dream the night before. But basically, I remember waking up like, oh my God, like my mom told somebody. Like I just remember knowing that, and she ended up actually telling my aunt, one of my aunts. And I mean, I didn't care. Like I trust my aunts, but my mom just needed somebody to talk to. She didn't know what to do. You know, it was 2 weeks before our wedding, so it was like I kind of not inconvenienced her, but it was just a very tough situation. She didn't want to upset me. She didn't want to, she wanted to make sure I was comfortable. She didn't want to cause a scene, and then it was just she was in a very, very tough predicament, and I really hate that I had to put my mom in that predicament. But I told my mom, I was like, no, I'm healed. Proceed, like, nothing is happening or whatnot. And she kept asking, like, was I sure? Excuse me, releasing that energy. She kept asking, was I sure? And I was like, yeah, like, I'll be fine. And I wanted to be a big dog. And I remember standing in the middle of the floor at the reception with my camera, and this nigga was like, it's a nice camera. How much is that camera? And when I tell you, I don't remember what went through my head. I just remember so many thoughts so fast, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on right now? And I remember looking up and seeing my aunt that my mom told, and she looked like she seen a ghost. Like, she looked terrified, and I just snapped out of it. Like, she just looked like, I remember that look of fear on her face, and I just hurried up and looked away, and I answered the question, and I just was like, because you tried it. You tried it. That's all I kept thinking about, is like, you just tried it. Really a different feeling, like being released from that bondage. I remember this guy, Brother Panic, said it on a live one day, and I thank you. He, another one, randomly brung up molestation, and he was like, close your eyes, and when you're meditating, basically activate all 5 senses. So like, I had to close my eyes, and had a cold chill. Closed my eyes, and he was like, close your eyes and picture the house basically that it happened in, and close your eyes, walk around the house, look around at things, do it again, start touching stuff, like, what does it feel like, make it real. What do you hear? What do you smell? Literally activate your 5 senses, and basically it was like, get up to the point into your memory right before it happened the first time. And I think he said it was psychologists basically call it recall repressed memory or something. Basically, that's how you hypnotize someone, essentially, or what psychologists do to hypnotize, something like that. But anyway, he was like, instead of letting it happen, change the trajectory, whoop his ass, stab him, do whatever. And I was talking cold cash shit like, oh yeah, I'm an adult now. That shit ain't going down. And I just remember I got all the way up to the point, and yeah, physically, I'm in this 30-year-old body, but that inner child is still a child, and you get stuck at whatever age that you experience trauma. And it was like that 6-year-old me, I could literally feel inside of myself like shrink. And it was like I was just screaming and crying like, no, no, no. And my body couldn't do anything. My 30-year-old body, I was like meditating, and I had no control. And I just remember thinking like, why did this happen? Like, I was so upset with myself because I wasn't there to protect myself, to protect my inner child that had been just yearning for help and crying for attention in many different ways through like all my life. And I felt like I had let myself down. It's just, if you're angry, what caused you to be angry? Like, what was that sadness, that hurt that you're holding on to? Just let it go. Let it go. So, all in all, I encourage any and everyone to set themselves free. I know my story has been all over the place. I was just trying to recall things, but of course with trauma, it does block and black out certain things, or sometimes if not a lot. This did go on with me from like 6 to 8, maybe 9. Sorry, things are randomly coming like back to my mind as I'm trying to think of like answers to questions that may arise. Feel free to reach out to me. I don't mind if you have more questions. I'll try to answer them. Or if you have questions about how you can possibly go about telling your parents. The crazy thing is, my dad still doesn't know. I don't know if my mom ever told him. My biological father. But yeah, that is just a conversation. I don't know how it would present itself. I mean, there's no real way to say it, but I don't know. I told my mom I just had to get past that hump. I don't really know how my dad, my biological father, would react, or what he would say. Not that I don't care, but I'm an adult. But then at the same time, he's probably gonna look at me like, well, why are you just not telling me this? Or I don't know. I don't want to just randomly add random anxiety on top of him. Like, hey, guess what happened to me? I mean, there's no real time to say something like that, but that's just a different story time because I'm just not really ready to talk to him about that. And if you see it, say it. Sorry. But on the road, I just encourage, you know what? I want to add this. I was getting readings before I told my mom, and I would be on Clubhouse or whatnot, and I would have a very good reading, and then readers used to always bring it up like, there's just this one dark thing that, you know, is just haunting you. It's just following you from your past. And I'm like, what? These people do not know me. And they're all saying the same thing. But then I think like some of them caught on too. I remember one in particular, she definitely caught on. But because we were on Clubhouse and it was an audience of people, she didn't want, she didn't know how I felt. So she didn't want to embarrass me. And she obviously knew I wasn't ready to talk about it, but she alluded to it. And anybody who's smart enough to listen to what's not being said probably caught on. But it's not something that you can hide from. I don't care how long you think it's been, or just set yourself free. Write it down. Write it in a journal note, in a journal entry, or just write it on a piece of paper. Hey, this happened to me, XYZ, especially around a full moon. And fold the paper away from you, set that bitch on fire, and write on it, I have let you go. Or fold that bitch up and toss it in the ocean. Free yourself. It's really worth it. If you can still feel it, you can still heal it. Words of Londrell. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this helped somebody. The more that you talk about your situation, the more that you can heal from it and transmute that energy. Until next time on The Healing Cancer.